Snowflakes swirled like ghosts under the streetlights that night, blurring the edges of everything, even the truth. On a lonely street corner, a young black woman stopped when she saw an elderly lady standing at a bus stop, clutching a bouquet of wilted flowers, her white cane trembling in the wind. The world sped by, cars splashing through slush, but no one else noticed. When the woman reached out to help, she never imagined that this single act of kindness on a frozen, forgotten night would echo through her life in ways she could never have dreamed. The city had been buried under snow for 3 days straight, the kind that silences everything except the hum of streetlights and the crunch of boots on ice. Maya worked the late shift at a diner on the east side, a place where regulars came for coffee more than company. She wasn't supposed to walk home that night. The buses had stopped running hours ago, but rent was due and missing work wasn't an option. With her scarf pulled tight and her breath fogging the air, she trudged down the half-frozen sidewalks, wishing only to reach her small apartment before midnight. That's when she saw her, an elderly woman standing alone at a deserted bus stop, the kind no one used after dark. The woman's gray hair peeked from beneath a wool hat, and she clutched a bouquet of yellow tulips now dusted with snow. It was odd. The flowers, the blindness, the hour. Something in the way she stood waiting in the storm felt wrong. Maya hesitated. People had warned her about stopping for strangers at night. But then the woman's cane slipped, and she stumbled forward into the icy road. Instinct took over. Maya rushed across the slick pavement, grabbed her arm, and steadied her before a passing car sprayed slush at their feet. The woman turned her head slightly, her eyes pale and unfocused, whispering a thank you lost to the wind. Maya promised to get her home safely. She didn't know it yet, but that promise, simple, human, and pure, would change everything. Maya guided the elderly woman along the slippery sidewalk, the howling wind cutting through their coats like knives. Each step was cautious, measured. The world around them blurred into streaks of white. The woman's hand trembled lightly in Maya's grasp, her grip both fragile and trusting. Maya asked where she lived, and the woman pointed vaguely ahead, murmuring that it was not far. But the snow was falling thicker now, muffling sounds and swallowing direction. They passed shuttered storefronts and darkened houses, their footprints disappearing almost as soon as they made them. The woman's name, she said softly, was Mrs. Whitmore. Her voice carried the trace of an old-world accent, refined yet weary. She had been waiting for a bus that never came, to return home from visiting her late husband's grave. It was their anniversary, and she had brought flowers, tulips, his favorite. Maya listened quietly, her heart tightening with empathy. But not everyone saw kindness the same way. As they turned onto a narrow street, a police car slowed beside them. The officer rolled down his window, suspicion sharp in his tone as he demanded to know what Maya was doing out so late and why she was holding on to the old woman. The blue and red lights flashed across the snow, making the scene look almost surreal. Two women, one young and black, one elderly and white, caught in a moment of misunderstanding. Maya explained quickly, but the officer's gaze lingered on her longer than it should have. He asked Mrs. Whitmore if she was okay, as though Maya weren't standing right there. When Mrs. Whitmore answered gently, "This young lady is helping me get home," his expression shifted, but the damage was done. Maya felt the sting of something deeper than cold. After the car pulled away, Mrs. Whitmore squeezed her hand tighter. "You didn't deserve that," she said quietly. Maya forced a smile, brushing it off, though inside her chest ached. She was used to it. The questioning looks, the silent assumptions. But tonight felt different. They continued on, finally reaching an old house at the end of a long lane. The snow had covered the walkway entirely, and the lights inside flickered weakly. Maya helped Mrs. Whitmore up the steps and waited as she fumbled for her keys. When the door finally creaked open, warm light spilled across Maya's face, and for a moment she felt the weight of the storm lift. Mrs. Whitmore insisted she come in, at least for tea. Maya hesitated. She was exhausted, frozen, and still had a long walk ahead. But the woman's tone left no room for refusal. Inside, the house was filled with the scent of old wood and fading memories. Family photos lined the mantel, some black and white, some cracked with age. A portrait of a younger Mrs. Whitmore and a man in military uniform stood framed in silver. As the kettle whistled softly in the kitchen, Maya sat near the fireplace, thawing her fingers. She couldn't shake the strange feeling that this night was more than chance. Something unseen was binding their worlds together, something that would only reveal itself in time. The next morning, Maya woke to a knock at her apartment door. The storm had cleared, leaving behind a brittle calm. She wasn't expecting anyone. The landlord never came without notice, and her friends all lived across town. When she opened the door, two men in dark coats stood there, their polished shoes dusted with melting snow. One introduced himself as Charles Whitmore, Jr., Mrs. Whitmore's son. His expression was tight, cautious, as if bracing for something unpleasant. Maya's heart sank. Had something happened? He explained that his mother had spoken of her, the young woman who helped her home in the storm. Maya relaxed slightly, but then noticed the other man, a lawyer, judging by the briefcase and the way he lingered in the background, taking quiet notes. Charles's tone softened as he went on. "My mother passed peacefully in her sleep last night." The words hit like a sudden gust of wind. Maya's knees almost gave way. She'd just seen her, so alive, so gracious, sipping tea and sharing stories by the fire. The image of the frail woman smiling over her cup seemed impossibly far away now. Charles continued. "Before she went to bed, she wrote your name down on a note. Said you were the kindest soul she'd met in years. She wanted you to know that she was finally at peace." He paused, his voice catching. Then the lawyer stepped forward, handing Maya a sealed envelope with her name written in delicate cursive. Inside was a short handwritten letter, a thank you, full of warmth and quiet gratitude, and a deed to the very house Maya had helped Mrs. Whitmore reach the night before. Maya stared at it, stunned. She couldn't understand. The woman she'd helped, a stranger on a snowy night, had left her a home that symbolized more than shelter. It was trust, redemption, and a bridge between two worlds divided by history. Tears welled in Maya's eyes as she whispered, almost to herself, "All I did was help her get home." Maya stood outside the old Whitmore house a week later, the snow now melting into slush along the edges of the walkway she had once cleared for an elderly stranger. The world looked softer in the daylight, the same place but somehow changed. She turned the brass key in the door and stepped inside, greeted by the same faint scent of tulips and wood polish. Sunlight streamed through the lace curtains, dust motes dancing in the air like quiet memories. The lawyer's words still echoed in her mind. She wanted you to have a home and a chance to keep doing what you do best, helping others find their way. Maya had thought long about that. The gift wasn't just a house. It was a challenge, a legacy of kindness. She decided to honor Mrs. Whitmore by turning the home into a community shelter for women in need, those who, like her, had faced nights of cold indifference and invisible walls built by prejudice. Within months, the house buzzed with life again. The laughter of children filled the rooms where silence once lingered. Volunteers came from across the city, people of every color, age, and faith, united by the simple idea that compassion could heal what history had divided. Sometimes, late at night, Maya would sit by the same fireplace where she and Mrs. Whitmore had shared tea and watch the flames flicker against the photographs now lining the mantel. New faces, new stories, all bound by that single act of humanity on a snowy night. And in those quiet moments, she often wondered if kindness was the one thing that truly survived us, the one legacy that transcends every barrier. Because sometimes, the smallest act of goodness in the darkest storm can echo through generations, proving that love doesn't see color, and compassion doesn't need to ask for permission. Maya smiled, whispering into the warmth, "We both made it home." In a world still divided by fear and bias, kindness remains the quietest form of resistance and the loudest proof that humanity is still alive.